With the emphasis for green energy diminishing because of a new drill baby drill attitude and a lowering of restrictions and regulations, I would like to show you what I believe is a new oil field in Oklahoma. The prospect is a shallow Permian carbonate reservoir. It is considered a low-risk prospect because of observed oil presence in the carbonate reservoir. Calculated recoverable reserves of 20 million barrels of oil make it a potential new field discovery. The land situation is excellent with no current production within the prospect outline. This presentation does not disclose the location of the 20 million barrel prospect. All locations and well names are omitted or changed. However, the following items are correct. Lithologies, well and contour depths, surface dimensions, geologic structure map with abandoned wells, geologic cross-section, well log data, petrophysical data and photographs of oil shows and drill cuttings. This PowerPoint shows a structural map on the top of the carbonate formation, with the oil reservoir shown in green and 3 plugged wells that penetrated the carbonate reservoir. The 3 wells were not successfully completed for various reasons. Using the cross-section CC' which connects these wells, the reasons for non-completion in these wells will be explained in the next PowerPoint. This PowerPoint is entitled Plugged Wells Exhibiting Oil Shows in Carbonate Reservoir. Geologic cross-section CC', which is vertically exaggerated in this section, shows the 3 wells that penetrated the carbonate reservoir but were not completed. Well number 2, the first well drilled was originally drilled to 5,000 feet, then later extended to just over 7,000 feet. I was personally involved in drilling the 2,000-foot extension of this well. During the drilling of the extension I observed green oil in the mud pit after a severe, lost circulation event occurred. The event was caused by encountering a large subsurface fracture at 6,600 feet. After the well was plugged and abandoned, it was suggested that the mud pit oil was milked from a shallow, 6-foot-thick, carbonate at 2,369 feet. This was due to a fluid pressure drop in the well that occurred during the lost circulation event. Well number 1 was drilled about 5 years later than well number 2. It was an offset well. It was drilled for the purpose of testing the milking concept proposed in well number 2, namely, that the green oil in well number 2 came from a shallow, porous carbonate. As will be shown later, geochemical analysis of drill cuttings from the top of the carbonate, which is just below the gypsum and hydrite reservoir seal, indicated the presence of free oil in the carbonate. Oil was also observed later during initial swabbing. However, due to limited cash and pressure from regulating authorities, the well was plugged, leaving the well untested in terms of oil flow. Considerable drilling fluid remained in the porous carbonate reservoir to restrict oil flow. Well number 3 was drilled by another operator about the same time as well number 1. Unfortunately for the operator, uncertainty as to where to perforate resulted in excessive perforations in the well and excessive water production. However, I observed oil residue inside of mason jars when I visited the well site after it was abandoned. As I mentioned earlier, geochemical analysis of the cuttings from well number 1 indicated good oil at the top of the carbonate reservoir. This overhead shows rock evaluation measurements for well number 1 using drill bit cuttings. As shown on the left, the petroleum potential of the cuttings, based on total organic carbon values, called S1, ranges from poor, with little to no oil in the cuttings, to excellent, meaning the cuttings are saturated with oil. As shown in the cuttings photograph, 3 zones were analyzed for oil content. Zone number 1 is in the evaporite seal above the carbonate reservoir. Zone 2 is at the top of the carbonate reservoir where the highest porosity is located, and Zone 3 is located further into the 6-foot carbonate reservoir. In the middle of this overhead, the S1 values are plotted vertically. As expected, the evaporite seal zone above the reservoir is rated poor with an S1 value of 0.49, indicating little to no oil content. Zone 2, located at the top of the carbonate reservoir where weathering creates the greatest porosity, the S1 value is 3.56, indicating very good to almost excellent oil content. Deeper into the carbonate reservoir, Zone 3, with an S1 value of 2.12 indicates very good oil content. On the right side of the overhead, gamma-ray logs from well 1 and well 2 are correlated on the carbonate reservoir, showing the approximate locations for the three zones. Due to lack of funding and pressure from the Corporation Commission, a very limited amount of swabbing was performed in well number 1. Well number 1 information is shown on the left of this overhead. It shows the hole geometry, the gamma-ray log and photographs of swabbing returns. The well was drilled to a TD of 2,470 feet, with casing set to a depth of 2,297 feet, creating 173 feet of open hole. The 6-foot dolomite pay zone from the deeper, initial well, number 2, on the right, clearly shows the very porous dolomite pay zone by a thick, mud cake buildup observed on the microlog. Using the microlog and gamma-ray log from well 2, the 6-foot, porous dolomite pay is the only porous dolomite zone in the open hole section of well 1. Using an improvised swabbing rig, which could pull only 30 feet of water at a time, eventually, oil was observed floating on water. As shown on the microlog of well number 2, another porous zone, 12 feet thick, is indicated at a depth of 2,514 feet. Although this formation was not penetrated by well 1, as shown on the well log correlation, it might be another deeper pay zone. It is important to remember that the lost circulation event that happened while drilling an extension to the well, probably dropped the fluid level in the well several thousand feet. This reduction in wellbore pressure would have pulled oil out of the 6-foot, porous, dolomite pay formation and possibly from the deeper 12-foot porous zone. After re-establishing circulation, visible green oil was observed floating on the surface of the drilling mud tank. Before my concluding remarks concerning this shallow oil prospect, I want to show you, at an expanded scale, the 6-foot and 12-foot porous zones drilled in well number 2. In this slide, 3 logs are presented, a gamma-ray and caliper log on the left and a microlog on the right. Because of increased permeability in the 6-foot porous dolomite zone, a thick mud cake was built up during drilling. Because the mud cake resistivity is different from the formation resistivity, shallow and deep electrode spacings can detect mud cake buildup based on curve separation. As can be seen in the green circles, the shallow and deep curve separation is excellent. On the left, mud cake buildup decreases the hole diameter, thus reducing the caliper measurement. When the well was originally drilled to 5,100 feet, the target formation was a thick carbonate formation at the bottom of the hole. The thin, shallow porous zones were apparently bypassed and suppressed because of excess wellbore pressure. To test thy drill baby drill prospect, I recommend drilling a nearby twin to well number 2 to a depth of 2,600 feet. After drilling the extension, well number 2 was plugged for salvage in 2013 with cement which may have entered and blocked the porous zones. If you or your company would like to drill this test well, with the possibility of discovering a new oil field, please contact me for more specific information. I have no acreage interest in this prospect. I am a semi-retired geophysicist with 20 years experience with Conoco and would be glad to consult with you on this prospect. Thank you and may God bless you.